Welcome. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon or morning, depending on where you are. My name is Ash. I'm a member of the Firestorm Collective, and I'm thrilled to host today's discussion between Beezus Murphy, Tatiana Gill, and Amelia Bonow in celebration of Beezus' debut graphic novel, My Mom Had an Abortion. Before we start, for folks not familiar, Firestorm Books and Coffee is a 13-year-old worker-owned cooperative and radical bookstore in so-called Asheville, North Carolina, on the traditional lands of Cherokee people. We're an anarchist collective that is well known for our curated inventory of titles related to feminism, queerness, social movements, and radical politics. We ship books all across the country, and if you haven't checked us out yet, our full catalog is available on our website, which I will drop links to in the chat. Firestorm is also a community event space. Unfortunately, with the ongoing pandemic, we continue to be on hiatus with in-person gatherings and have transitioned our community and author events entirely to online virtual space. With that said, we do have a list of exciting virtual events coming up in collaboration with folks like PM Press and other indie publishers. So if you're interested in staying informed about events happening through Firestorm, you can follow us on social media, and I'll also drop a link to our community calendar in the chat. And just a note for those who are attending in the live audience, there will be some time at the end of today's conversation for Q&A. So if you're interested in asking a question at any point, I'll encourage you to submit them throughout the discussion by using the Q&A function located at the bottom of your screen if you're attending on Zoom, or in the comments if you are following along on the Facebook live stream. Cool. As for today's event, like I said earlier, we are here for a discussion about Beezus Murphy's debut graphic novel, My Mom Had an Abortion. Published by PM Press, the story is a unique coming-of-age tale told by 17-year-old Beezus Murphy and illustrated by body-positive comic artist Tatiana Gill. In it, we hear Beezus' own chronicles of her evolving understanding of menstruation, reproduction, and abortion, and watch her grow from a confused, out-of-place kid into a self-assured, empathetic, and strong-willed activist teen. Beezus and Tatiana will be joined and moderated in conversation by Amelia Bonow, the co-founder of Shout Your Abortion, an organization working to normalize abortion through art, media, and community events all over the country. And now I'll introduce today's speaker, and then we'll get into the conversation. So Beezus B. Murphy is a Seattle-based, self-described dyslexic, asexual, lesbian, feminist writer and activist. She lives in Seattle with her mother, father, younger sister, 3 pugs, 2 Siamese cats, and 1 Chihuahua. Her hobbies include the creation and consumption of media, roller skating, and trying to keep up in school. Tatiana Gill is a Seattle cartoonist drawing about social movements and reproductive justice, mental health and addiction, and body positivity. She contributes to publications across the world and has illustrated several books. Her work appears in galleries and exhibits around Seattle, where she collaborates with a number of local organizations, including Seattle King County Health Department, Community Lunch, People's Harm Reduction Alliance, and Shout Your Abortion. Amelia Bonow. Amelia Bonow's writing has appeared in The New Republic, Bust, and Salon, and in Shout Your Abortion's self-titled book, which currently sits in the waiting and recovery rooms of nearly 300 abortion clinics. Bono proudly serves on the board of directors of the Abortion Care Network and has been honored by abortion conservation projects, the Webby Awards, and abortion clinics nationwide. So Beezus, Tatiana, Amelia, thank you so much for being here today, and I will pass it over to Amelia.
Thank you so much, Ash. Thank you for that lovely intro. I'm happy to be here with all of you and talking to whoever is watching or will watch this later. I'm really thankful for Firestorm and for places like Firestorm that continue to exist. And just, you know, I had a really special experience visiting Firestorm a few years ago with my friend Poppy Lou on our Bible Belt abortion storytelling part 2. And there are kind of no specialer places in the whole universe to me than pockets of radical people in red states, just living and fighting and making art together. So thanks for being there. I'm just gonna say a short bit about what SYA is and talk about how this project came together a little bit and what I see this project as being, which is just one of the coolest things that's ever happened. So Shout Your Abortion started back in 2015. I had an abortion in 2014, and it was an experience that I just felt really positive about. I was just really happy to not be pregnant, and I was super, super grateful for all of the folks that took care of me. I felt hyper aware of the fact that my abortion experience was like a very cushy abortion experience because I live in a blue state in a progressive community, and I'm a cis white woman who had access to like the funds and didn't have any legal barriers. I didn't get screamed at by protesters. I knew my family was going to be cool about it. And it made me really angry that my experience was so, I knew that within the scheme of abortion experiences nationwide, that mine was very rare and that I was very lucky. And I also knew that there was a huge part of the reason that my experience was so rare is that people just don't talk about abortion. Like even people who are pro-choice, especially back then, had a really hard time talking about abortion. And I really started to see the connection between that silence and the anti-choice movement's like ability to just run that conversation and put forth a bunch of just like batshit propaganda that was having horribly like powerful political consequences. So one day in 2015, I wrote a status update on Facebook saying that I had had an abortion, that I was not ashamed, that I was just really grateful for the care that I received, and that I was talking about it publicly because I felt like the anti-choice movement was relying on silence from pro-choice people who've had abortions. That status update went super viral, due in part to my friend Lindy West putting it on Twitter. And it just immediately catalyzed like hundreds of thousands of abortion disclosures and, you know, sort of created this ripple effect of cultural change, which has now 6 years later, I think, catalyzed hundreds of thousands of millions of billions of sort of instances of personal expression and of artwork and of people just like living their actual full lives and showing up and talking about the things that have happened to them, however they want to talk about them. And two of those people that have been sort of like ridden this wave of telling the truth about ourselves are Tatiana and Beezus, both of whom I like specifically love your work. And I think that what's so special about My Mom Had an Abortion, and something that really like ties it to what SYA is as a whole, like SYA has never just been about talking about abortion, because, you know, when we talk about our abortions, we're talking about all sorts of other things we're not supposed to talk about. I mean, for one, we're talking about sex. we're often talking about tricky things like money, like God, like death, like mental illness, drug use, tricky relationships, abusive relationships, like all of these things that inform the calculus of whether or not someone wants to continue a pregnancy. And, you know, like society tells us, and I think especially tells women, that we're not supposed to talk about any of this shit, you know, even though we know that these things, they may not define us, but they really shape who we are. And both Beezus and Tatiana have voices that I think, like, you both talk about all sorts of things, but you both seem really drawn to talking about the things that you're not supposed to talk about. And I think that in doing so, you give other people permission to do the same in ways that, like, changes the known universe, you know? Like, when the world isn't set up for you to exist, and tells you you're not supposed to love yourself or be proud of who you are, and you do it anyway, like, you change the parameters of the culture around you, and you open doors for other people that they then walk through. And then the next thing you know, we're just living in a better world. So I met Beezus at the Stomp the Patriarchy Ball, which was SYA's first birthday party. It was the coolest, best party I've ever been to. It was at an old theater in Seattle called Washington Hall, and it was decorated to be sort of like an abortion prom. It looked like a cake. And it was, I talk about this in my outro, and Beezus references this party in her book as well. But Beezus was just like zinging around this wild party. And just, I definitely took notice of Beezus's family because they're very sharp dressers, and because also Beezus and her sister were kids at this time. And I just had this moment of like realizing how much the astounding possibility of like, what if kids went to pro-abortion celebrations? And what if like people were introduced to the idea that abortion can be a positive, liberatory experience to be celebrated, that people can be proud of themselves for making a choice that society tells them they're not supposed to, and for, you know, prioritizing their own freedom above all else. Like, what if we talked to kids this way before they sort of get inundated with all that other bullshit? And like, we would, again, like, live in a different world. And so when I saw Beezus, I was like, damn, that kid is amazing. And I am so proud of being part of sort of this like stigma intervention that they're experiencing. Like, I don't think that you can go to a party like that when you're a kid and still just grow up with the same kind of, you know, anti-abortion, just like propaganda and all of this negative cultural noise that we sit with in our brains in a very naturalized way. You know, it's like we absorb a ton of that without sort of ever like thinking about the fact that it's there. So yeah, it's been a total pleasure to like watch Beezus exist since that moment of first encountering her and her family. And at some point, SYA started talking about making children's books, and we started working with Beezus's mom, Shawna, on a book that Shawna created, which is called Maybe a Baby, and it talks about Shawna's various experiences with miscarriage, childbirth, and abortion. And then Beezus, and it's a beautiful book, and everyone should go to Shout Your Abortion's website and purchase it. And then Beezus started working on this project, My Mom Had an Abortion, which is just like, so SYA at this point has produced and co-produced and sort of had a hand in just like a huge range of creative projects, from like music videos to all sorts of different events to, you know, art shows and like DIY film festivals. And this project is like, it's my total fave. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. Yeah, I guess with that, I will hand it over to Beezus to talk about like whatever you want, and as it relates to this project and why you made it, how it felt to make it, anything you want to say about it. Over and out. And you're on mute.
Thanks, Amelia. Hi, everybody. My name is Beezus Murphy, and yeah, I wrote this book because, well, I would say like my main reason for it is because I feel like I went through such a transformative journey, like about like how I feel about reproductive health, and it was all because it's like my mom told her story about having an abortion. So like before that, I had a very skewed perspective on it, and I didn't really understand and like what it was all about. But then like my mom told me her story, and like suddenly I was like, oh dip, abortions are normal as hell, yo. If you're familiar with me, you've probably heard that quote before. They're in that little Easter egg for you guys. Yeah, my mom's actually right here right now. She was the one who's laughing at it. Don't know if any of you were. Totally fine. Comedy is subjective, but anyway, I realized that if like her perspective and her story could change my view on abortion, what if they could change everyone's view? You know, there's this Harper Lee quote. She wrote To Kill a Mockingbird. And like she said on like the topic of her novel, I had something to say, so I said it. And I guess I feel like pretty similar with this book. Like, I think I definitely had something I needed to share with the world, and I feel very, very fortunate for the opportunity to do that. And like I really appreciate all the good people at Shut Your Abortion for like helping me do so. And as well, I also want to thank Tatiana a lot because like her illustrations really tie the whole story together. Was looking for something in the book. This is the title of one of my chapters. Oh man, I'm just noticing right now, it's a little typo there. It's supposed to be bloodbath, like one word, not blood, comma, bath, comma, and beyond. I was flipping through the book because it's so great. And like I would say that part of why I was so excited for it to be a graphic novel, why I'm glad that it is because I was definitely very influenced by the works of Rance Hogemeyer's Child and like her graphic memoirs. That was something that was so cool to me. Like she was able to talk about like her story in a way that made it engaging for like people of all ages, and yeah, like that was one of the first books I ever remember like really like liking a lot. Maya, do you have any questions for me? Because I feel like I'm sort of just saying whatever now. I didn't really have anything prepared.
Yeah, so how does it feel to be an author?
I mean, it feels great, but at the same time, it's kind of a weird experience because like everyone I know is making such a big deal out of it. Like all my teachers, like they were so excited about it. And I mean, anyone can write a book. Didn't Donald Trump write a book? I mean,
Ew, I don't know. I don't believe
like he
that.
did. I think it was called like The Art of Deal or something.
Ew.
Ugh. Why was he our president? How that happened? Oh, wait, because America is a fucking nightmare. Oh, damn it, I just said
That's
fuck.
true.
My grandpa's watching this.
That's okay.
Now he's heard me say fuck. He's probably heard me say it before. I say it a lot. I like swearing. It emphasizes my point.
I feel you. I have actually, that kind of brings me to one part of my postscript that I want to read, that you just said, like, you're like, anybody can write a book. I just want to read this one part, and maybe it will give you something that it feels like you want to say. Ideology is often invisible. It doesn't really feel like something we're opting into unless we can see other people opting out. And only then can it feel like a choice. I'm so proud that SYA helped illustrate that choice for Beezus, and it's an honor to help share her story of opting out, not just of abortion stigma, but of compulsory heterosexuality, of being quiet, and all sorts of prescribed modes of thinking and showing up in the world. It's easy for adults to see somebody like Beezus and be like, wow, some people are just born remarkable. In part, yes, totally. But also, I think it's more convenient for us to believe that some people are born remarkable than it is to believe that people are capable of remarkable transformation. And
that's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Like, I feel like that actually ties a lot into like a big theme in the book, where like everything to us like everything that we know is taught to us in some way or another. Like hate is not some sort of biological or inherent trait. It's not passed down on like genetically. It's passed down through being taught. Like all those people out there who are trying to stop abortion, they were not born hating abortion. They were taught that it was wrong, and that it was sinful for people to be able to make their own choices about their reproductive health, which is so fucked up. Now, honestly, if they want like less pregnancies to happen, maybe they should start restricting men's sperm. It's a thing getting everybody pregnant.
Yeah, I mean, agree.
Yeah, I shouldn't have brought that up because it's just making me so angry that they're trying to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
And the worst part is it might happen.
Yeah. I guess a couple things about that, though. I guess we should probably talk about the current landscape real quick. For those who don't know, there is a Supreme Court case, there's a Mississippi case that the Supreme Court has heard, and we are awaiting the decision in this case. It's called Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Reproductive Health. It's a 15-week abortion ban, which is in direct conflict with Roe versus Wade, which ensures the right to terminate a pregnancy through viability, which is seen to be 22 or 24 weeks. And because this court has, is essentially full of a bunch of political operatives that were like groomed to do this exact thing and not to make, good, actually look at things and make judicious interpretations of the law or whatever the fuck they're pretending to do. Like, they are going to, a few months from now, likely in June, announce a decision in which they either overturn or decimate Roe versus Wade. And in either situation, abortion will become illegal in half of the United States in the next couple of years. That is just what's happening, and it's devastating. But I think it's really important to wrap your mind around that being the reality so that we can learn to live and help each other live in this new reality. And on that note, I got to plug abortion pills, which are now widely available online and safe to use outside of a medical setting. You can find more information about abortion pills at shareabortionpill.info. Beezus went away. Beezus might have to come back. Maybe this is a good time for, Beezus is back.
Oh, I'm back.
Okay, cool.
I'm back.
Anyways, I just wanted to say that, yeah, you're right. Things are really, really, really bad legislatively, but also though, it's completely messed up that they're going to take away the right to abortion, and it's completely fucked up that they're going to criminalize people for having abortions. And we know that the people that will be criminalized are the most marginalized among us, and that this is all part of like a broader project of class and racial warfare and misogyny and all of that. But also, like, I was never asking anyone for permission to have an abortion.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, I like, fuck this court, we're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and we're gonna build a world where we're helping each other have abortions no matter what this court says.
Yeah, I really love that you said that, Amelia, because like something I've been thinking about a lot is that the most insulting part about the whole thing is like not even they're trying to get rid of abortion, because they've been trying to do that like since abortion was legalized, but the fact that they think if they outlaw abortions, people will stop getting them.
Yeah.
We're
No.
not.
Mm-mm.
If you tell someone not to do something, then you're really not like actually making them want to do it less. You're planting the idea of doing it in their head. Like there have been tons of times in my life where like my mom was like, oh, don't do this, and like I didn't even thought of doing that thing before she said it, but once she did,
Yeah.
I sure was.
Yeah, totally. I feel like much of my identity is constructed as an opposition to those forces as well.
I feel
Beezus,
that.
yeah.
I feel you, man.
Yeah, I thought that you might. Should we bring Tatiana into the chat and talk to Tatiana a little bit about this process?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Hi, Tatiana.
Hey.
So do you two want to, Tatiana, do you want to talk about like what this project means to you and what it was like to work with Beezus?
Yeah. Well, this project has been so important to me. I feel like it's why I'm here, why I'm on this Earth projects like this. And
really?
yeah,
Sweet.
absolutely. Yes. So thrilled when, Shout Your Abortion reached out to me and asked if I, would be interested in illustrating this. Right away. Yeah, because I think comics are a wonderful way to reach people of all of varying reading levels and different ages, and even if you don't speak English very well, chances are you could read a comic easier than you could read a book, kind of thing, or read English very well, I should say.
Yeah, I feel that because like when I was a kid, I started reading Smile before like I could even actually read. I just looked at the pictures. Like that's what I did with a lot of books before I learned how to read. I was just
Yeah, I did too. I would just look at comics.
Yeah, I'd try and construe a story from just visuals.
Yeah, so it's such an accessible way to reach people with a message, and this message is totally important to me. I also had an abortion, and for me that was like in 2001, and I've always been pro-choice, I've always been liberal, and grew up in this very liberal city of Seattle, but I was ashamed and I thought it was bad because that's the only messaging I heard, really, aside from like some, there were some organizations that maybe I'd see at like a festival or something that had a booth, but that was it. And that, especially sort of pre-social media, but even then, even post-social media, Facebook and Twitter and being on all those, that wasn't something I talked about. So when I saw the Shout Your Abortion movement, I was so excited, and it was such an internal revolution. So to be a part of, to help out the collective and to share the message is awesome. And seeing, reading Beezus' script, I was like, and you were younger when you wrote it. You were
I was like
15,
12 or 13.
Oh wow, yeah. And I was like, this kid is a genius. Like it was
I
just
might have been
really
14. I don't think I remember, but
yeah, young enough to. I mean, it would be impressive at any age.
I was 12 when I first found out about abortion, so it must have been like at least around 13 or 14 when I read the book.
Okay. Yeah, it was beautifully done, full of laughs and just really touching moments, full of, and yeah, and it was just, and I was really excited to see how it just touched all these different topics, some that I hadn't really, made a lot of points that I hadn't considered all of them. And yeah, good job.
Tatiana, do you want to show
Thanks,
us
you
some,
too, man.
do you want
I
to show
call
us
people
some
man
illos?
a lot. It might be
Yeah.
problematic, like
What-
overly
what-
gendery. Not sure. Oh, sorry. I'll stop talking for a while. I've been talking too much.
Oh, no,
Oh.
please. No, not at all. But yeah, I'll share some photos and everyone talk. I don't mind a bit. I will share my screen.
Yeah, Beezus, you can totally turn your mic back on and like talk about how these illustrations hit you, or what. I imagine
Oh,
it's
yeah, that sounds great.
I
Can you
imagine
see
it's
this?
a very interesting thing to have, like the inside of your brain illustrated by someone, you know?
Can you all see my screen? Is that
Yeah.
working? Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, here's the cover. And yeah, I think this was this was more I think I had a few ideas that I presented to everyone, and we wound up with this one, but I think it, holds several aspects of the book. From, there's some maxi pads in the background and a little, off-brand Bart Simpson doll. I didn't want to get sued, but and a picture of Beezus's family and an iPad, with a play button on it. So, and Beezus like writing stuff down, basically, which I don't know if you did it that way or on a computer, but in my imagination.
Yeah, I'm not super good at like actually physically writing things down, but that was a nice touch.
So yeah, this is probably a really pivotal page, is Beezus talking to her mom about her abortion, and when she tells her, I don't know, if you have anything you want to say about it.
Well, I feel like that, looking back, that was a pretty pivotal moment in my life, and I feel like you captured it like so well.
Hey.
I especially the part where it says, "This revelation upset me, but all things considered, I think I took it pretty well." But it's just me crying.
Yes. And yeah, that's a lot of the, like, you really get that with comics, that it's not just the words or the pictures, it's the word and pictures together. And, they can be so effective working together, but they can also be so effective, like, yeah, if you're kind of saying one thing and picturing it slightly differently. Or, and then they're still working together to show, you did take it pretty well, things considered, but it also was a lot of crying. But yeah, and I love.
It's so interesting that your first question was, were you married? It's like, you're obviously not you're obviously not a person that like gives a shit about that, and the fact that cultural conditioning was in there is just like such a testament to the power of all of that brainwash.
Like, some parts about this book, it's actually kind of embarrassing, because like it's weird to look back on like how I used to be. Like the majority of stuff in this book, like it covers events that happened while I was in middle school, and I don't know about you guys, but middle school is a pretty transitional period in my life.
Yeah, but it's so generous of you to share your evolution with the world, because everybody, I mean, we would be in such a better place if people made similar moves in terms of like interrogating their own assumptions about things,
Yes, and I think another thing that really touched me about this page is the intimacy between Beezus and her mom, that, I sent this to my mom because it just made me sort of like, oh, mothers and daughters. Like, I mean,
it's like a huge theme in the book.
Yeah.
Like family, specifically like the relationship between mothers and daughters.
Yeah. And yeah, it's done very beautifully. Let's see, what's the next page that I chose?
Oh man, I was actually helping you choose this one because like that's
Yeah.
That was, wow.
Yeah, it's a very effective image, and one that was like, yeah, it was a lot of thought went into drawing it, because yeah, it was just like, oh, I certainly hadn't illustrated anything like it before, but I can imagine that would be a huge, like, something you wouldn't forget. It would be a kind of a scary moment, probably.
Beezus's mom, like poking out from the side of the screen. The thing that was so amazing to me in seeing this book and seeing that picture is that it felt like Tatiana came to our house. That's really what it looked like. And we sent you a few pictures and you looked at our Instagram, but obviously there's no picture of this when this happened. And this is really what it looked like. And that's what I thought, it was so amazing that you could come into Beezus's brain or come into our lives in pictures that nobody saw. Like, it was just me and Beezus's dad and Beezus that saw this scene, and you captured it so remarkably.
Oh, thank you. That's wonderful to hear. Yeah, and again, Beezus is writing in this of like, this, and then the next page, I think it really talks to how serious a pregnancy is, that it's not something to just be like, oh, well, guess I have to, even though I don't want to, because it's like, it's life and death. Like, it can be life threatening. So, as, I mean, for the mother, that, that Shawna was hospitalized during this, and that it was,
Yeah, I think
it can
like
be scary.
Looking back, this was definitely a very important part, or to like talk about. Like, I think in a book like where their reproductive rights is such a big focus, it's like good to talk about like the real risks of pregnancy. Like, not a lot of people take into account. Like, my mom she was only 4 when she had my sister, but like it was still a really difficult pregnancy. Like, I remember there were so many times where like she had to stay overnight in the hospital, and like I didn't even really understand at the time, and like some people still are, like some adult people don't even like understand like the huge tremendous risk that being pregnant like puts on your body. And it's sad that like so many people just can't walk a mile in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
Because they still want to give it the comfort of their own.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I was really glad that, or I thought that was really cool how you brought that into the book, and and because it was all just a part of what happened to you and to your mom. I chose this page because I feel like you really talk about your activism and how it's like it says on the next page, like it's the family business.
Yeah, actually, I think like this was also a really good part to include, because it really works with the theme, because it's like right here we're talking about like this actually happened, this moment, like word for word. I asked my mom like, why weren't we saying all lives matter? And like she explained to me like that we were just focusing on like Black Lives Matter because like we're constantly told otherwise by society. And like, why is it so hard for like so many adults to get that? Like, I was 8 and she still explained it to me like really well, and it worked. I think it's just, it all comes down to the fact that like hate and prejudice, they're taught to people, but like we can teach them otherwise, because like people my age, we're sponges, we're unshapen mounds of clay. We can be influenced in ways that are either good or bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I know when I was younger, that's when I got a lot of the messaging that, abortion was bad, that it was, baby killing or whatever, because that was just sort of what was on the news in the 80s. I think it's.
Yeah, it's totally not, because like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna give you guys a little brain exercise here. It's a quick one. Let's say hypothetically, in one hand, I was holding a petri dish, and in the other, I was holding a human baby. If I were to drop both the petri dish and the baby at the same time, which one would you save?
The baby.
But why?
I would need to know more about the petri dish, because what if inside of the petri dish was like a biological weapon that would eradicate all living life? You didn't say what was in there, bro.
It is a thought
Yeah,
exercise.
I actually this exercise went to my class when I was like talking about abortion and with them, and like one person answered the baby, and then I answered why. Well, then I pointed out the baby's the one that's alive, and I was like, exactly. I brained them.
The point being, like, even if the petri dish had like a bunch of embryos in it, that's the thought experiment that I've heard, is like, if there's you know how there's like fertility clinics where people will go like take an egg and a sperm and like make an embryo in a petri dish, and then they can like implant it in a person to carry the pregnancy. That's the petri dish exercise I've heard of. Anyway, we can move on.
Hey, can I answer a question?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's an attendee here named, I believe that's pronounced Avery Powell.
Mm-hmm.
It's spelled kind of different. And like they asked me if the topic of abortion was swept under the rug in my family before my mom told me. And I mean, I guess like yes and no. I don't think my parents really went out of their way to hide it, but at the same time, my mom didn't tell her parents. And like I wasn't told until like I was old enough to start thinking. I kind of thought it needed to be swept underneath the rug because, well, like when my mom first told me, I thought she was telling me like a really big secret, and that I couldn't tell anyone. So when I did tell someone, I freaked out about it because I thought my mom would hate me, and they would destroy our relationship. And I thought that for multiple months, like until I asked my mom, hey, can I tell people you got an abortion? And she's like, sure, why not? But I'm glad you asked me first. It's always good to ask first, just in case.
Yeah. Yeah, it is good to ask. You don't want to like tell someone else's story. Should we like continue to open it up for questions?
Well, it looks like there's more coming in now.
Oh, cool. Okay. Hi, Marcy Bloom. Marcy Bloom, I want to give you a hug. Yay. It's not a question, it's just a love bomb, which we appreciate.
Oh, hugs.
Yay. All right, well, we wait for more questions. I'll go through some images, but yeah, we can. I also don't need to keep going because.
No, I think that's great. I think you should totally just keep going, and we can encourage folks to send us questions if they have them while we talk.
I thought this was a really beautiful page that her Beezus, what is it called when you put two things together and compare them?
Yeah, it's a little contrast.
Juxtaposition, yes. When Beezus
this was
juxtaposed.
Definitely like one of the few pages I actually had like a really clear idea on what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah, the mom's growing up life and then Beezus is growing up life and the differences and yeah, lovely too how it shows how your folks were always there for you, which I think is really sweet that you know that and appreciate it, because I don't think I had that kind of insight, when I was 14 or whenever you wrote this.
Looks like we have another question from SYA's very own Sarah Edwards. She says, Beezus, congrats. My question is whether there is an idea for a chapter that you wish was in the book, and are you planning to continue to write?
Well, that's actually a really good question, because I mean, I guess if I were to add another chapter to the book, maybe I could talk about like why I consider myself to be like a lot more educated now than when I was 14. And like with everything that's been going on lately, I think I'd want to talk more about like reproductive rights and like how they've really been under attack lately, and like and a lot of other points in history, and how I just find that so insidious. And yeah, I definitely want to keep writing. Like, this is a great book, but I don't know if I really want this to be like the best thing that I ever do. Like, I feel like I still have so much more potential, like so much more I can give to the world. But at the same time, I'm really worried I'm gonna be like one of those child stars who just spins
No
out of
way.
control
No way.
once they get like really successful.
Yes.
No, not a chance.
And I've actually been thinking like a lot about like my book lately, and like whether or not I'll ever or like be able to top it, because I'm a senior now, so I have to do a senior project, and for my I do like some research on abortion stuff, and like everyone kept telling me just do something with your book for your senior project, but like I feel like that'd be cheating, because it's not like I wrote it while I was a high school senior. But at the same time, I'm having trouble like coming up with a better idea of something to do. So this is kind of my safety net right now. Like, it's what I'll fall back on if I can't come up with anything better. I actually kind of switched gears to my senior project like halfway through, because I got another idea for it. So over the past month or so, I've been watching it's probably been like close to like 2 months. Okay, wait. Over the past 2, I'd say, months, I have been watching every major like Disney princess movie, and a couple flops that were only appreciated over time, and analyzing the feminist content. I just watched Frozen the other night with my sister. Surprisingly, it actually was as good as I remembered. It did live up to the hype. It did live up to the hype.
Well, I think everyone here believes that you will only continue not only living up to the hype, but
Yeah.
creating. You're a hype machine. You'll never stop.
Thanks.
And it'll come. I think feel that way. Like, is this the end of my creativity or whatever? Especially if there's like a gap between projects, or like, I feel uninspired for a while, but it comes back.
Yeah, and I always feel like there's just different periods where like sometimes you're like soaking things up and looking around and learning and feeling lots of stuff, and then sometimes you're in more of a state of like making work about those observations or whatever. So I don't think that you need to like always be having a project. Sometimes you just live in. Do you want to show us a couple more illos?
Yeah, and I see a new question just came in of how did the process of making the book together work? Did I have a full text beforehand to edit all at once, or was it piece by piece? And yeah, I had the whole text all at once. And so I did actually lay it out, or, I figured out first what would go on each page. And then we discussed it and changed anything we thought should be changed. And then I started drawing it out. And yeah, I chose this.
This was literally exactly what happened, like word for word almost.
It's a very good.
My mom really thought I wasn't gonna grow anymore.
Oh my god! Right.
Like she got her period when she was 15, which is a relatively later age, so her perspective was different from mine. just like how all perspectives on like the reproductive health system are pretty different, you know?
I love Beezus's face
Yep.
in the last frame. And my mom tried to do that. My mom's like friend tried to do that to me too. And I had the same reaction. Like,
Can we find and somewhere in between shave and that?
yeah, right. I mean, and look at you now. You're wearing bloody tampon earrings.
Yep.
Yeah, I love the tie in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, on the next page, it goes on to talk about how stigmatized that is. And yeah. And I love that. It's so funny how just, you know, I think for me growing up in the 80s, I didn't even think about that it should be different. You know, it was just sort of how it.
Yeah.
I didn't question it. So I love that
really glad
you're
to,
questioning
like,
it.
I was really glad to like talk about like periods in here, especially like the story of how of the time I first wore a tampon, because I feel like that was a pretty pivotal moment for both me and for like my relationship with my mother.
Yeah, I got that slide up
Wow.
next. So
As if you set it right up.
That really was my plan, to just like somehow hide that I was on my period. I didn't even like want to put a pad in like the night before because I was worried I'd get found out. So I just bled all over my Christmas jammies.
Oh. Yeah, this is one scene from like a 4-page spread about you, yeah, hiding your period and then trying a tampon for the first time, which yes, I remember was arduous for my own experience. Like, doing what, where? Like,
Is this are people in high school like super embarrassed of like their periods now? Because I remember when I was in high school, like if you had like a tampon in your backpack and like a boy saw it, it was like the most embarrassing thing ever.
I mean, I guess we're not ashamed, but like no one really talks about that much either.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, my friend Hazel, she talked about hers a lot when she was going through some chronic pain stuff. Then she got birth control implants, so she doesn't have to have it anymore because she's got too much for her to bear. And like, I was really grateful that she shared that with me. And you know, actually, after she read my book, she talked about how she kind of envied that like I was able to wear a tampon because she couldn't, because she has chronic pain down there. Like I said. Man, I hope Hazel isn't watching this because I said some pretty embarrassing stuff about her potentially.
Okay, well, redacted.
But honestly, that's another thing we can talk about. Like, why would that information be considered embarrassing?
I think it's more just that it's everyone's personal decision what they want to share with others about their body and health and identity, and you know, that's how I see it.
well, I see there's a question that's talking about turning red, which did remind me of these pages, which I haven't seen yet, but I hear that it discusses periods and that, you know, people are like, oh my God, what?
I've been hearing like I think I've seen like a trailer a couple times and like a lot of advertisements for it on Spotify. I definitely want to check it out because I mean, I love Disney movies. As you can probably tell from earlier, I was talking about how I'm watching all of them and writing feminist analysis on them. I mean, not all of them. There are some that I omitted because, I mean, there actually weren't really that many female characters in The Lion King to begin with. So, like, that was one I didn't really want to talk about. Wait, should I have talked about The Lion King? It's not really applicable because they're animals, they're not people.
So this is the last image I picked, which is from the party and has Amelia down here jumping in Lindy West's arms.
Yeah, it's finally like when all the color comes in, because like that's when I think that was a pretty transformative night for me, because like that's when a lot of things really started to make sense because it all came together.
Yeah.
You did a really good job of representing my dad's shirt.
Oh, nice. Good. Yeah.
Beezus, I've probably told you this, but I have a really specific memory of standing at that party talking to Representative Jayapal. And I was like wearing, super high heels, and you were just like zinging around the room, and you weren't wearing shoes. You were kind of like sliding around on your socks, and you were wearing
that sounds like me.
Yeah, and you were wearing
that one exactly, but it sounds pretty on.
Well, what happened, and you were wearing noise canceling headphones too. And I was like talking to Pramila, who, was like already a state rep, a big deal. And, was she then? I don't remember. I think she was.
She was.
It's what
she was running. She was like in the midst of running for re-election. And I remember
she was there.
Yeah. And I remember it was her like 9th event of the day, but you were like running by us, and like somehow your sock got caught on like my stiletto and then you just like flew across the room, and you like fell. Do you remember this? You fell, and me and Pramila ran over to you, and we were like, are you cool? And you were just like, yeah, I'm cool. And then you just like got up and ran away.
That sounds like me. Yeah,
it happened.
Sounds like me. Pretty on brand.
And look at, now Representative Jayapal is just like holding down the progressive caucus of the United States House of Representatives. It's kind of amazing. And she, you almost fell down on her at the formative abortion event in your young life.
Falling down on very famous people.
It's just like, that's actually kind of similar to this one story that my mom has, where like she and my dad went to this concert, like this so, and long story short, they went backstage, and my mother got kicked by the then 4-year-old daughter of Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love, of Frances
Wow.
She
Frances Bean kicked Shawna, huh?
Frances Bean kicked my mother.
Backstage at Screaming Trees, she ran over and kicked me. She wasn't
Wow.
very well surprised. Let's just put it that way.
She kicked her.
R.I.P. Mark and Kurt, and Frances Bean, wherever you are, I hope you're doing okay.
It's pretty interesting to think about this, like all the experiences that I went through, because like my sister, she's in 6th grade now. She's 11. She's going to be 12 in a couple months. And like, I feel like all this stuff's going to start happening to her. And like, on one hand, I feel it's sad because, oh man, your tween years are just like, ew. But such a weird time. But at the same time, like, that's when you're starting to like really become a person in a lot of ways. That's why they call them your formative years, because you're forming.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like this might be a sort of natural part to wrap things up, unless there are more questions or either of you have. Oh, Beezus, do you have a beverage in front of you at all right now?
Oh, my mug.
The mug.
I forgot about that. Okay. I'd like to show you all this mug before we finish up.
Who made that awesome mug?
I do not know. It was not homemade. It was just trying to figure out how to.
Why?
Oh yeah, the other way. Right in the middle. Yeah, there we go. Oh. Yes, perfect.
Why are you so into it?
Okay, well, as you can see, it has breasts on it. If you can actually see it, which hopefully you can. And it's actually an interesting story of how I got this mug. I first saw a pencil bag with this exact design on it, like probably a year or two ago. Actually, it might have been like less than a year ago.
In October.
Oh, it was in October. I thought it was way longer than that. Okay, so it was October. My family went to Portland, and I saw this pencil bag. egg in a bar.
Powell's.
Powell's. Damn, can't remember the names of things. Damn dyslexia. Okay, so anyway, I saw it in a Powell's, and I saw, oh wow, that's so cool. So I had to buy it, and I bought it. And then, like a couple months after that, I was walking past this store, and I saw that they had in their window a mug with the exact same print as my pencil bag. And I figured it must be fate, so I did what any sane, rational person would do, and I immediately went in and bought the mug so I could have a matching set.
Nice.
Like, come on, if you saw a mug like this, would you really not want it?
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
want
Got
it.
breasts on, like so many different types.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Cool. This has been a delight. You are both brilliant, and I'm so glad that you both exist. And I can't
Thank you.
can't wait.
Okay. Amelia, you big sweet talker.
And likewise.
Hi, Ash.
Hey,
Oh, hey, Ash. Forgot you were there.
Yeah,
I've been here off screen the whole time.
Nothing.
Ash has been lurking in the shadows. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Do you have an official outro to offer?
Yeah, I figured I'd just thank you all so much for taking the time today. I know it's a bit on the earlier side for you, 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning. For folks watching where you are, thanks so much for the really engaging questions and sharing the love that you did in the Q&A. We got to see all the comments there. And yeah, if anybody's interested, we'll be sending out a recording of the event to everyone who registered. So if you're here now, you'll get a follow-up email with a link to the recording. And yeah, thank you so much, Beezus. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thanks for giving me a platform to share it, man.
Absolutely. And we'd love to in the future, if there's anything more down the line in terms of your writing process, we'd love to keep the conversation going. And yeah, Tatiana, thanks so much for putting the slides together and telling us a little bit about your process. And Amelia, thank you so much for framing the conversation and moderating today. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone, have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. It was such a wonderful experience.
Yes,
Great, I'm glad.
thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye.